How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope, this time for March 15th through March 21st of 2021. Thank you guys so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. I'm very excited you guys can be here with me this week because we don't have a lot to talk about. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think we might have a lot to talk about. But everything that we're talking about is really exciting. None of this... Being an astrologer this past year has been really hard because a lot of what I've been talking about has been, things changing, things, falling apart. Like 2020 had some really rough astrology, but we're finally getting into the juicy part of 2021 where I actually get to talk about positive transits for one. And this is kind of like the first week of that. However, I do want to say, I'm recording this, of course, on Saturday night. This is usually when I do record my weekly horoscopes. This is, of course, right after the new moon in Pisces. And so I just want to close that out real quick before we move ahead of how replenishing this past week was. Sure, trust me, if you guys have watched my channel for a long time, you know that Pisces energy is probably my least favorite thing that I like. But wow, man, this past week has been so... like a baptism almost. I feel so I feel so refreshed. I feel so that wateriness was really good, and that's rare for me to say. I don't like saying that stuff. However, that last week's Pisces energy of feeling it all out, going along with it, like that was the time and place to do that. That is not what this week is about. This week is about kicking into gear. Things actually starting to happen, things actually starting to get intense. It doesn't actually start off that way, so let's actually jump straight into it. Big thing, first thing that we get into on Monday, Moon is going to, of course, be sextiling Jupiter for pretty much the whole day, and Mercury is going to enter Pisces. So, like I said before, we don't start off this week as getting fiery and airy. I think, honestly, I don't even want to talk about Mercury and Pisces because... I'm not looking forward to Mercury and Pisces. I personally think this is going to be a rough transit in the sense of Mercury is about communication, right? Communication is so vital, especially in this day and age where we're all relying on emails and text messages and other forms of communication. When Mercury is going through rough transits, that can translate to more negative astrology, right? Mercury's going to be going into its sign of detriment, where Mercury's job, right, is to communicate, to send a message. When it goes into its sign of detriment, which is Pisces, this means that Mercury doesn't have the tools it needs to do its job effectively. So again, if you, I did a video last year when Mercury retrograded in Pisces about what Mercury, how Mercury kind of communicates a message in Pisces. And the way I really like to talk about it is, Mercury in Virgo is like everything's typed up, double space, Times New Roman, 12, everything is grammatically correct. Everything's in black and white. Mercury in Pisces communicating a message is like writing that message down with a highlighter on your hand and then, trying to read it like an hour later after your hands get all sweaty or something. Mercury in Pisces is not good at the communication stuff. That's very black and white. That's very clear. So that's difficult because that's what we're used to doing, right? We're so used to being like, being clear with our communication, right? But that's not what Mercury in Pisces is about. What Mercury in Pisces is about. As we start this week with Mercury entering Pisces on Monday, this is where our sense of communication needs to be much more, needs to be less focused on being specific and being precise and about getting a picture, what I love about Mercury and Pisces though is it's communicating through ideas, right? Pisces is so much more of like an idea, a concept that you're trying to get across, right? So Mercury has to speak in big, creative ways in Pisces. It's not about saying, oh, because I said things in black and white and in this way, it's all going to make sense. Mercury in Pisces is about, spreading like ideas, like, imagining stuff. Mercury in Pisces is speaking almost like intuitively and, if you guys watch because you guys watch my YouTube, this might make a little sense. There's a lot of things that I've noticed that I say that like, it kind of doesn't make sense, but apparently you guys seem to get it. And I'm sure a lot of you are like, no, Cameron, it actually doesn't make sense and we don't get it. But the Mercury and Pisces thing is like, not everything has to really make sense. For example, what's so funny about like Donald Trump, which again, I'm not a fan or anything and not to bring that up, but it's when you listen to him talk versus if you were to read that like on a script, you're like, what the hell? But when he talks, it sounds normal. Like when, he's just talking normally, right? Like how he would sound. But when you listen to, like, if you were to like write down everything he said verbatim the way you said it, you'd be like, what the fuck is this fool saying? Mercury in Pisces is kind of like, you don't need to really rely on that specificity. You don't need to rely on those things because guess what? It's not going to happen even if you wanted it to. So as Mercury enters Pisces, don't expect messages to be clear. Don't expect things to be understood in a tangible, physical way. But trust your intuition, because Mercury, that's the thing with Mercury in Pisces. It's much more about, going with the flow, getting, I always like to talk about Pisces as very much like kind of trying to figure out where you're at any given moment. There's this spiritual practice. I think I might have talked about this too. I don't remember if I did last week, but there's this, I don't want to say spiritual practice. This thing someone taught me at a metaphysical store. It's basically like, let's say you have like an object, let's say like my keys. Actually the keys are a horrible example, but we'll use it anyway. If this resonates with me, if this is something that I like, basically what you do is you hold on to it, you stand still, and your body will know if you resonate with it or not, if you lean forward or if you lean backward. So if you're like, if you're deciding, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Like, think about the thing that you're doing and stand completely still and see which way your body leans forward. If you lean forward, you want it. If you lean backward, you don't want it. And so I like that. I like this imagery from Mercury in Pisces, right? It's very, well, how do you feel about this in this moment? What makes sense at this moment? Mercury in Pisces too is a very, if we want to talk about water signs and being emotional, sometimes we can make, have crazy rationale when we're emotional about certain things. So I think with Mercury in Pisces, don't be specific. It's not meant to be clear-headed. It's not meant to be, specific with things. It's about being open. It's about getting an idea across. It's about being interpretable is a good way to look at it too. Because Mercury in Pisces is like, the hero's journey as a story is a story no matter what. You can replace the characters, you can replace the setting, you can replace the dialogue, but the story is still the story. That's like Mercury in Pisces is like, do with everything else, right? Like every hero movie is pretty much essentially the same, but it's all completely different. Mercury in Pisces is like, how do we signify those differences? How do we get creative with how the story is told? How do we think bigger, right? And that takes, Mercury's not good at Jupiter jobs, right? Mercury's wanting to think rationally. Now, I need to stop ranting about Mercury and Pisces. I can kind of go on and on and on forever about it. But what I'm trying to say is, well, actually, I bring this up because Mercury's going to square Mars next week. Is it next week? Yes, it is next week. It's actually like the beginning of next week, which I truly think is going to be a pretty rough transit. However, the reason I'm kind of hitting on Mercury is like, things are meant to be open to interpretation. Things are going to be loose. You should just accept that. However, don't expect that to not come with its own issues, where that is going to cause some things to be confusing, to be blurry, and that's just the name of the game of Mercury and Pisces. Again, Mercury doesn't have the tools it needs to do its job. But also on Monday, Moon sextiling Jupiter and Aries. This is very ambitious. This is very exciting. I think Monday is looking like a great day to get into something exciting. I think with Mercury going into Pisces, though, it's very much like your mind's going to be kind of dreaming, kind of focusing on a much more bigger picture. Now, though, as we go into Tuesday, let's bring up the days. Tuesday, Moon's going to go into Taurus, and it's going to make nice little sextile to Mercury first, and then it's going to be conjoining Uranus before it makes that square to Saturn, but that'll be on the next day. Tuesday is looking nothing. Tuesday is just a Tuesday, I guess. Well, the Moon going into its exaltation, right? I don't think usually there's more to talk about with that, but like the Moon doesn't get anything going into Taurus. The Moon gets a conjunction with Uranus, and then a square with Saturn. Like the Moon doesn't even get to enjoy its exaltation degree without dealing with some hostility before. So where I think the Moon in Taurus would usually be much more of a time of us being much more comfortable, relaxed, it's not really about that right now. The Moon's gonna sextile Mercury on Tuesday, where I think the moon being in Taurus is we're going to be slowing down a little bit, that's for sure. And we're going to be trying to, center ourselves, center our energy a little bit, kind of get grounded with some things. And I think that's going to really help Mercury in Pisces, because Mercury in Pisces is like, I've got all of these ideas and I'm here, I'm there, I'm thinking this way. And the moon in Taurus is going to help ground Mercury in Pisces. So Tuesday looks like a day things might make more sense and things might start to have a little bit more weight to them. My only issue is moon's going to be also conjoining Uranus, where cool, it's like cool, we finally what's a good way of looking at this? It's kind of like, well, for example, one time my car broke down. I shouldn't say one time. For some reason, my car always breaks down in the middle of Utah whenever I'm moving. And one time my car broke down and I was like stuck out there for like an hour. I took like a nap. And a tow truck guy finally came. It took him like 2 hours, right? Because I'm in the middle of like Green River, if anyone knows where Green River, Utah is. And I'm like, yay, the tow truck's here. And then I get in the tow truck. And that shit's like another 2 hour drive to the next place. And I'm like, like, yay, excited for tow truck. I finally get to move forward. But I'm an astrologer. I'm in Utah. This guy me and him did not see eye to eye on pretty much anything. So it was a very rough ride. It was not a fun 2 hour drive to wherever the fuck I had to go. But I look at the moon conjoining Uranus and squaring Saturn. It's like, cool. Things are moving forward. Things are more centered, but don't expect to be comfortable. But this is also too, if you're wanting to be comfortable, don't expect to grow. Right. And when you see like this Saturn Uranus stuff, this is very much like forced growth in a sense. It's very, in my opinion, a lot of this Saturn-Uranus square seems very intervention style. Kind of like we're putting the pressure and we're going to address this no matter what. And it's going to shake things up. So I think as the moon goes into Taurus, where we're going to feel more grounded, it is going to be requiring us, though, to, really I don't want to say take a leap of faith, but not be afraid to get uncomfortable, right? The new comfort is uncomfortability. That's where we have to find, that centeredness. And I think with Saturn squaring Uranus, if you're still looking for comfortability, it's not going to be there, right? Like everything's kind of still on edge. Everything's still kind of, up in the air. So I think on Tuesday, as the moon goes into Taurus, makes that conjunction with Uranus, there's this kind of like, it's a risky move, but do what's going to center you, right? It's different, it's innovative, it's very sporadic, it's kind of a wild guess, but it's going to make you feel comfortable, so do it. Now, when we go into Wednesday, when we go into Wednesday, the moon's going to make that square to Saturn early on in the morning and then pretty much square Jupiter for the rest of the day. This is where the moon first conjoining Uranus and then making a square to Saturn is like doing something that's kind of a risk, and you're not going to be met with an applause at first, right? For example, when someone like me, when I turned, I was 17, 18 when I first moved out with my sister, kind of expecting, the world to be a certain way. And I was very wrong very fast, just like most of us were. And I think with the moon conjoining Uranus, it's like, for me, like I needed to move out like that. It was a very sporadic decision, especially for me and my sister to like, we moved out of state, did our own thing. It was very sporadic. It was very destabilizing too. Put me in a lot of rough situations, but it was good. I think though, while overall, it was a good idea for me to do that. That sporadic decision I made, I definitely faced a lot of challenges immediately after that. And this is exactly what I think the moon conjoining Uranus making the square to Saturn on Wednesday is going to feel like. It's like, okay, you're going to do something different, but don't expect to just win. Don't expect to just be successful, I guess, the first time you kind of do it. Expect harsh feedback. Expect things to not work. Things take a while to gain momentum, right? And so as the moon first squares Saturn and then it goes throughout the day and then makes that square to Jupiter, the moon squaring Jupiter is like, okay, well, how do I, that sucked, but what did I learn here? What did I get out of this, right? Now, the problem with that is the moon in Taurus, and this is something that we're going to bring up, again, Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, their whole job is to not change things. That's the whole job of those signs, is to not change things and to keep things stable. Sometimes we want things to be stable, but sometimes we need things to change, right? And I think as the moon is in Taurus, making that square to Jupiter, this is like, okay, we could stay at a stalemate all day long, but who needs to change and why? And this moon in Taurus is like, okay, I need to get out of my comfort zone, right? And I need to see the opportunity to learn out of the situation. Wednesday is very much like, you can count it as a loss if you decide that, or you can it's going to take getting over your ego, and it's going to take, telling yourself that maybe you were wrong and that there's a lesson to learn. But on Wednesday, with the moon squaring Jupiter, like, take an opportunity to get a clue. Like, personally, like, this moon in Taurus, like, again, the Taurus, when you get the fixed stuff, it's hard to take a loss. It's hard to take an L. It's hard to be wrong. But with squaring Jupiter, it's like there's something valuable here to learn. And Jupiter's also in the superior position. The moon in Taurus, though, making that square to Jupiter is very much like, let me center myself. Let me gain some more, like, especially too with the moon squaring Jupiter, is like, just reflect on it more. If, maybe you did fall on your face, maybe you did get some rejection, maybe you did have some issues. How can you make that work for you, right? Like, be inventive with that. Wednesday looks a little frustrating. But also I think Wednesday is good for, stalemates and conflicts are good for creativity, right? Because the original plan's not going to work. If everything, like, you really have to use your critical thinking skills. So I think while all of these fixed sign transits are going to be rough, they will produce really good results. But let's go ahead and get into Thursday, because we jump into Thursday, and lo and behold, the moon is going to make a sextile to Venus. Venus is still combust, but okay, she's getting close to the sun. The moon is also going to enter Gemini and immediately make a square to Mercury. So Thursday looks pretty fun if you like things happening. The first thing I want to bring up is that moon's in the later degrees of Taurus, making a sextile to Venus. This is good for that creative energy. This is feeling good of like, okay, you've learned the lesson. Let's have some fun with it now, right? Like, now that you have, once you learn something and you know how to change the behavior, right? Get out of your comfort zone. There's an opportunity to gain advantage out of something here. And I think also with Venus and Pisces, it's very much like, what are you enjoying? What relaxes you? What is stimulating you? And as that moon's in Taurus, it's like, finding, I think, recentering yourself and regrounding yourself in a different position, getting out of your comfort zone, I think is going to be really fun. What I love about Pisces energy, and again, I'm talking a lot about how much I love Pisces energy because I'm making up for how much I talk shit about it. So when people are like, Cameron, you talk too much crap about Pisces, I'm like, well, I equally have a lot of good things to say too. And one of the things I love about Pisces is the absolute openness and honesty of the experience. Like, Venus and Pisces isn't asking you to like a certain thing. It's just asking you to like something. It's not asking you to indulge in, everything. It's just asking you to indulge in the whole thing, if that makes sense. Like, don't just half-ass experience the movie in its entirety. Don't just, and it doesn't matter what it is that you're liking, that you're enjoying. And I think also with Venus conjoining Neptune, with also Pisces season going on, I think this is the moon making, at least what I want to talk about is the moon sextiling Venus here. There's this comfort, there's this comfortableness, there's this, I'm enjoying myself. And this creative pressure, I think too, because the moon in Taurus is also like, the moon is wanting you to feel things, the moon is wanting you to feel solid. Like, if the moon is our emotions, right, at least in the more modern sense, think of how you feel after you're nourished. After a good meal, like when you eat a really good dinner and you wake up and you're not hungry and you feel energized, right? Like, that's what the moon in Taurus wants you to feel like. So I think this kind of creative endeavor with this issue that you hit with Moon and Saturn, and then this learning lesson you get with Moon Jupiter, going to Moon Venus is very like, that was fun. Challenge is fun. Growth is fun. Learning is fun. Getting out of your comfort zone is fun. Doing things different and changing is fun. Anyway, let's get to Friday. Oh, by the way, no, we can't get to Friday because also on Thursday, the moon will move into Mercury. The moon will move into Gemini. Which cool, you know what I mean? I love the transition from a planet going from Taurus to Gemini, because in Taurus it gets the squares from Saturn and Jupiter. To Gemini, it's now getting the conjunction with Rahu and then trining Jupiter and Saturn, right? So it goes from things being like frustrating to things all of a sudden going forward. It's like the moon, everything in Taurus and Aquarius is like, if it's like a party fighting another party in court and there's this stalemate, and then the moon goes into Gemini and it's like finally there's this agreement to like settle, and then it's like once there's an agreement to settle, then we can get the ball rolling on the deposition and who's getting what and all this, like then things actually start moving, right? So Thursday's going from like Thursday's very much realizing, you know what, this is a good deal. You know what, I do got something going on. Let's open up this discussion. And the moon's going to go into Gemini. Ideas start rolling, right? The moon's going to immediately enter Gemini. It's going to square Mercury, where, again, it's just going to be kind of like getting an information dump and not taking it all that much. Like with Mercury in Pisces, your head's still in the clouds. You know, Mercury in Pisces is like, you're sober, like the acid's wearing off for sure, but it's still kind of there, and you're still kind of like, what? Like Mercury in Pisces, like when you first wake up in the morning with some news and you're like, what's going on? I don't really like what, like it's not going to hit you at first. So I think that moon going into Gemini, squaring Mercury on Thursday is very a lot of new information, a lot of new stimulation happening, but it's not going to make sense all at first. It's going to be kind of like just kind of everywhere, just kind of a mess. That's just the MO of Mercury in Pisces. So it's going to be kind of hard to translate. But we get into Friday. We move into Friday, and that's when the moon's going to be conjoining Mars. And as it conjoins Mars, it's going to be trining Saturn. Also conjoining Rahu. Look at this, guys. What do you think? What do you actually think of this? Because in my opinion, I look at this as like, we're finally starting to see these positive, constructive air sign placements. Let's rewind. We just went through Aquarius season. Mercury retrograded all over. The Mercury retrograde basically laid out the field of what this air sign shit's all about. And it definitely demonstrated all of the issues and the problems that are at hand. This is finally when we start addressing some solutions, which, thank God, I'm ready to start seeing. And as Mars, and this is, of course, this actually won't perfect till the end of the weekend. However, as the moon's conjoining Mars, this is forward movement, right? We've got the ideas. We're wanting to take action. Now, here's the God honest truth. With Mars on Rahu in Gemini, you're going to be wanting to do 1 million different projects all at once, and it's only going to keep going faster. Some of you were like, oh, Cameron, I didn't really feel the Mars and Gemini thing, you know. I still feel tired. Mars doesn't have a lot of dignity, at least in the first decan of Gemini. It's very much like get what you get. I think as Mars moves into the second decan, I forgot where. Mars has some dignity somewhere in Gemini. I keep forgetting where. But what I wanted to bring up with this though is that as like Mars being peregrine basically means like, you know, you may be tired, but like the early bird gets the worm thing. Like Mars doesn't have dignity, but it's not debilitated. So take what you can get at this moment. And I think the moon conjoining Mars on top of the North Node, like doing a lot all at once. Like you can't put something I always say, putting as many irons in the fire as possible, not just putting all your eggs in one basket. Like Mars and Geminis, you're going to be here, you're going to be there. Moon trining Saturn, you're like, this is long lasting. This is going to create longevity. This is something that I'm committed to. This is something that makes sense. This is something that works for me. This is something that's the other thing. You're not going to be able to take action unless you're actually stimulated by this, which is the Mars Moon Gemini thing, and the Saturn Aquarius. Unless this is a virtue in which you actually believe, you're not going to take action, you're not going to want to take action. Until you are, I guess, with Saturn and Aquarius, this Mars and Gemini, like, until you're in agreement with something, until you're going like, okay, I know where I stand on something, this is my pillar of, you know, virtue. This is my pillar of, and that Saturn and Aquarius, right? Like, what do you believe? How does your mind work? Mars and Gemini, this moon conjoining Mars is very much, now it's starting to click. Now the ball's starting to roll. Let's take as much action as possible. And Mars and Gemini in the North Node, I can't tell you guys, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a little biased here because this is I have Mars in Gemini, and so Mars in the North Node, my Mars return. Mars rules my fifth house of creativity too. And I'm getting my hands in so many different projects right now and I'm very excited about all of this stuff. Look at where Mars rules in your chart, right? Does it rule your sixth house? Are you, working? Are you actually getting more sick or something? Or are you working out more? Does Mars rule your seventh house? Are you intensifying your relationships and your connection to them? Look at what Mars rules in your chart. And Mars moving towards the North Node, trining Saturn, things are getting real in that area of your life, right? Like things are starting to become constructive. Things are starting to become serious at this point. And I really think on Friday, this is like one of the first, like finally the ball is starting to really roll. We're starting to actually get some momentum here. The wind is starting to really, the sails are starting to catch the wind here essentially. Moon will be on Mars. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to get in some type of verbal confrontation probably. That's just going to happen, but just keep moving along. Just keep doing what you're going to do. You're going to struggle with that anyway. But we move into Friday, and lo and behold, we finally have the Aries ingress. Finally, it's spring season. Finally, that fire energy comes back, which we so need, because let's rewind. I'm going to watch this, guys. Watch this. We're going to rewind 1 year ago. Okay? Take a real good look at this chart. You see how nice this chart is? Moon in Gemini trining Jupiter, Mars trining Saturn, Venus in Pisces. Looks so fun, right? Well, let's rewind a year ago to the last Aries ingress. Yeah. How fun does this look? Saturn on Pluto with Mars and Jupiter on top of Pluto on top of Saturn. This looks rough. This looks scary. A lot of astrologers, of course, use the Aries ingress to signify what the year is going to be like. So when I look at this does not look like last year. This looks very exciting. The sun is going into its exalted sign of Aries. Days are getting longer. The sun is getting brighter, right? Things are starting to grow again. And you got to remember, as we descended, when the sun started to go, when days started to get shorter and nights started to get longer, Mars was going retrograde. It's still squaring Saturn. We were building up to the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. We were coming from a very dark place going in and out. Things are starting to get much brighter at this point. And I think I think on Saturday, we're going to feel really good about that. The moon's going to be trining Jupiter. So that looks really exciting for getting our ideas across, understanding things at a much deeper level. The moon is going to be squaring Neptune. So, the truth isn't always as ideal as, we want it to be. And sometimes, dealing with that can be a little bit difficult. So I think the moon and Gemini are the way that we understand things, the way that they actually aren't always going to meet our expectations. So I think it's just, but you shouldn't be having expectations, period. Because expectations are just premeditated judgments. Try to be open with the experience. Try to be open to what's new. Again, Mercury's in Pisces here. Well, with all this stuff in Gemini, Mercury's trying to just, don't assume shit. Just take things one step at a time. Don't feed into it that much. Be very light with your mind. You kind of have to be kind of on your feet with Mercury and Gemini. Mercury and Pisces. Anyway, that's Saturday. Saturday looks great. And let's get to Sunday. I know I totally skipped Sunday last time. I don't know why. But we can't skip Sunday because look at how much shit's going on. First off, Moon enters Cancer. It's going to trine Mercury, and it's going to square Venus. Notice that Venus goes into Aries here. But as the moon goes into Cancer, right, our emotions, we're much more in touch with them. We're expressing, we're feeling more. The moon's going to be on its way trining Mercury. This is going to help Mercury guide itself a little bit more. This is going to be getting in touch with your intuition, getting that mind, body, soul connection, feeling, in tune with stuff. You can't explain how that feels. You can't explain why that is, but you feel that way, right? You're on a cellular level, you'll feel it. Mercury's also going to be sextiling Uranus. So this is also going to be getting some extra feedback is a way to look at it. Uranus is, insights. Uranus is going to be, ingenuity. And I think Mercury and Pisces is once you're starting to get a feel for things, you're going to go, okay, now I know where I can be creative. Now I know where I can be ingenuitive. Now I know what needs to change. So this looks very insightful. Venus is also going to enter Aries. And also, Mars is going to trine Saturn. Sunday, again, Sunday really looks like the peak of the week. Like Sunday is really where it all goes on. As Venus enters Aries, okay, you got me. You got me. Venus is in detriment. Boo-hoo. I truly... So, again, Venus is about value, right? Like when you have a planet like Mercury in detriment, that Mercury plays a big role in a lot of stuff, so it can be very frustrating. Venus is about fun. Venus is about pleasure. You know, what does that really mean of Venus being in detriment, right? When you see Venus is going to have fun no matter what sign Venus is in. It's just about what she finds fun and whether that's problematic or not. And Venus in Aries, there's this, it's a little intense. It's a little bit, competitive. It's a little blunt at times. But I wouldn't worry about this. Venus is still combust, so it's not like she has a lot of things that she can do. And plus, she's on her way to a conjunction with the sun, right? And that's, of course, something we're going to talk about next week. But Venus going into Aries sounds very... it's not Venus and Pisces. Things aren't going to be as romanticized and as, beautiful as they've been. But this is also going to be... what Venus and Aries does think is fun? Arguing, playing, intensifying things. Venus in Aries is like, give me that. Venus in Aries is like, I'm going to go for what I want. And rather than, being suave or, finessing their way into something, Venus in Aries just goes and grabs it no matter what. And so rather than, I think, reject what the planets are trying to tell you, I think you should embrace it and just be Venus in Aries, right? Like that sounds fun. Not to mention too, I mean, Mars is in Gemini, so there's this kind of, nice little sextile that they've got going on. Plus, Mars is in a decent space. Let's talk about Mars. Mars is also trining Saturn at this point. And this is what I was trying to tell you guys. Like, with Mars in Gemini, when we're wanting to take action, where we're wanting to move forward with in Gemini, sure, we're wanting to do a million things, and that's only going to intensify. That's not going to calm down at any point. We're only going to be taking on more and more things because they stimulate us and because we're wanting to distract ourselves. My advice, do not distract yourself with distractions. Like if you play video games, I mean, also, I'm a video game hater. I don't know, not a lot of people know that. I never played video games growing up, but also I'm a big video game hater in general. They're fun, but the thing is with Mars and Gemini, you can get so distracted so easy. But with this trining Saturn, this is like, what are you doing? Like, there's so much time in the day. There is so much you can do. Like Mars and Gemini is like, the things that you're getting into, are they going to last forever? Are you building some type of structure with it? Because here's the thing, and people are like, oh, Cameron, people can just enjoy things. They don't have to take things seriously. It's like, well, Saturn's in Aquarius though. So like, clearly this is the time to be, be more rigid, be more structured, have more discipline. Like Saturn's in Aquarius right now. Like, is it not? Am I high? Like with Mars and Gemini trining Saturn, it's like, please don't, if you're going to be doing a million things, do a million things that are going to, create some type of structure, create some type of foundation, create some type of longevity in your life. Mars is only going to conjoin the North Node and then come up and trine Jupiter. This feeling of wanting to do more, wanting to get active more, wanting to, and of course, this is very windy, right? I have a lot of air placement, so of course, someone like me enjoys this. I would hope everyone enjoys this. I could see how some people wouldn't enjoy this though, being that, it's all air sign stuff. Like if you're not, it's kind of like nose goes. Like, you remember the first time you played nose goes and you were the one who had to go because you didn't touch your nose because no one told you how the fucking game went. That's the frustration of air sign stuff. No one tells you how the game works. You gotta pay attention and figure it out for yourself though. Because again, like Saturn Aquarius is like, dude, this is every man for himself. Like the second time I remember the second time I played Nose Goes, I still didn't know what the game meant, but all I knew is I touched my nose as quickly as I fucking could. I still didn't know what the fucking point of it was, but all I knew was I had to play the game, right? With Sunday, this is very much like, wake up, pay attention. What's going on? No one's going to tell you how this game works. You're going to have to either Google the rules for yourself or pay attention and figure it out for yourself. Because guess what? The game's already begun. Like, there's no going back. It's already started. And in my opinion, this isn't necessarily like, oh, this is bad, but this is invigorating. Like, you can't look at this and say this doesn't look fun. All the, like, Mars, the planet of competition, Venus, the planet of fun, and the sign of Mars, like, we're going to start having a lot of fun with this competitiveness, right? There's going to be a lot of fun with this playfulness, with this engagement, with what we're wanting to do. This does not look discouraging in any sense of the word. Except for Mercury. The only problem is Mercury is in Pisces, so it's not going to be clear. It's going to be very confusing. Maybe someone does tell you the rules to the game, and it doesn't make any sense, and they only speak in metaphors. So again, I think the bad parts of this week is Mercury's in Pisces, and that's very frustrating. But everything else is like, you don't need to, no one needs to teach you the rules. Figure it out. Like, just watch, just learn, just pay attention. Maybe that's what Mercury and Pisces is about, right? Like, Mercury and Pisces, what else I love about Mercury and Pisces? It's like an IKEA directions. IKEA, they don't give you words. They give you a picture. They're like, can you work with the picture? Like, is that too much to ask? And it's, in my opinion, I fucking love it. Like, yes, just give me the pictures. You don't even have to explain things to me. As you could probably see that big box right there. I just got a new desk, so I'm like, and this desk was the instruction manuals made this much more complicated than it needed to be. But Mercury and Pisces is like, don't expect things to be black and white and clear, but don't expect, but you can figure it out. You're smart, right? Like, it's not that hard. So anyway, I'm pretty much just ranting at this point. But what I wanted to say is this week looks fun. You know what I mean? This week looks like, hey, look alive. We're back in the game. Halftime's over. It's like after lunch. It's like I remember in school after lunch, the one period, the 2 periods after lunch, everyone's all tired, and then it's like the period right after this 2 period before lunch, but right before you leave school, everyone's like back and active again. Like, that's where it's kind of at right now. But in the sense also, though, it's springtime. Things are new. This is the actual new year. This is the astrological new year, right? This is what astrologers are all about. Next week, Mercury squares Mars. That's not going to be fun at all. But that's kind of like the last bad transit, which a Mercury-Mars square, hey, it's going to happen no matter what's going on, right? Well, we'll get multiple for the rest of the year, but they're just not fun days. Venus goes Cazimi with the sun. Pretty much the highlight of the spring, in my opinion. Lots of refreshing energy, lots of forward movement. Mars conjoins the North Node. Basically, that's like taking a 30 milligram Adderall and then going to Starbucks and getting like a venti quad shot espresso and then like basically drinking a bang on the way to work. Like, Mars conjoining the North Node is going to be like really intense and fun. And then next week we also have the full moon in Libra, which this full moon in Libra looks awesome. It's trining Saturn. Venus is right there too, so it looks really like, hey, things are coming together and things are working. I gotta end this though, because this is going for a minute. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys, and I'll be seeing you next week.